Welcome back, episode 107 of the Grouch. 107 of the Grouch and the Brainstorm. I'm Mike, and I'm here today with Jill.
Hey, guys.
And Matt.
Hey, everybody.
And we are playing the music again.
We know y'all love it.
Are we starting over?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, we're not going to start over. I accidentally hit the wrong button, and that's okay.
A lot of people don't know me and you actually are the ones playing guitar on that.
Oh, yeah, they didn't know that.
Okay, I'm lying.
Okay.
I'm lying,
with the guitars behind Mike, right?
Yes. We didn't want to say nothing, but
those two acoustic guitars really put out some
Actually,
electric sounds. Huh?
Actually, I don't know when I took this picture because one of those guitars is an electric one now, so I don't know when I it must have been an old photograph.
Yeah.
It must be an old photograph. You remember back when they used to call them photographs?
Yeah. I still photo.
my kids are back on the little and Lacey the little Polaroids.
Yeah,
man,
a lot of
they
people,
love them.
They
things.
came back with Polaroid about 7-8 years ago, and then they had the bigger Polaroid that came out, and and then the little Polaroid. Now they're like Polaroid minis.
Yeah, they're doing the little ones, and they just print them out like.
Huh.
Yeah, they love them things.
Yeah.
Man. They go to town with those.
I mean, Polaroids were fun.
I think Andre 3000 actually brought back the Polaroid just by that one single line in the song, "Shake it like a Polaroid
picture.
Shake,
Poetry.
Shake it. It's kind of hard not to say it in your head.
Yeah.
We'll start the way we always do, though, Matt. And we'll start with you. What have you been up to, bro?
Man, just sitting on mowers, getting ready to go down south for the weekend. Go down south Louisiana.
Going down to Mandeville.
Going down to Mandeville. We're working on a little surprise for the podcast. We're going to try to get that figured out, kind of a road trip deal while we're down there. But going down to see some old friends and stuff, and just hanging out. Everything's been good. So
That's great.
Yeah.
nothing crazy.
So, Jill, what have you been up to?
What have I been up to?
Well, according to our conversation,
She just grabbed the mic, so watch out, guys.
I would love to word for word repeat that one
Again,
sentence.
y'all.
I have seen a lot of blank in my day.
If y'all could hear the podcast before the podcast, this would be a whole different deal.
And I was letting out some of my frustrations.
Yes, I
because I have
understand.
these two guys to do. I have friends I can do that with.
And Jill,
Friends in low places.
Well, and hey, I did just get off the phone with my sponsor.
I've always had that thing where like people just tell me the most horrible stuff, and I always wonder. I'm like, do I have that face? Like people are just like, I can tell that dude because he's a dirtbag.
Yeah.
Like he's done worse,
Yeah.
And I'm like, thank you for sharing that with me. Whatever it might be.
Well,
But-
hey, anytime.
Well,
that's what I didn't
mean that with you. Actually,
guys,
yours was
as you
funny.
probably know, I work in corrections, and I see.
In corrections.
Yeah. You see some whiners.
God, like directed to me. I mean, like I just, and it is what it is, and like it's just.
You remember
How do you get used to
Silence
that?
of the Lambs, where Jodie Foster was walking through the prison, and like all of a sudden some
Yeah.
spunk hit her in the face. That's what they call it in
And
Great
I
Britain.
think about Jill, like you basically that's what you're dealing with, right?
I mean, like that's a lovely
So-
cell, and it is nothing like that
on a
in
normal
prisons.
week, how many times do you get hit in the face with spunk?
Oh, no.
At work. Don't.
God damn.
So just
Never.
Oh, okay.
Thank God.
but
Well, and I talk to a lot of men in their cell. That's what I do because they're in disciplinary, and I
Right.
walk up and down the tier, and they do say female on the tier, but
Well, that just gives them a heads up. You're on the way.
oh
you know
yeah,
what
it's
I
like
mean?
they get ready for it, and
I gotta take a shower.
and I'm like, whether they're like I see something out of my peripheral, and I'm like, what's that moving down there? And I'm like, oh no.
I mean, do you ever get used to that where it's just like you don't even care, or does it still like you're just
I mean, like,
dude, come on?
normal, yeah. I mean, like I don't care, to be honest with you. I just happen to be a little, irritated today, which is due to something else, and which
Mike said, or you said if they're pointed your way, I don't care which direction they're pointed. If I see it, I'm out. You know what I'm saying? I'm done.
Well, and I do leave when that happens.
Yeah.
Like, I'm here to help you guys, but I'm not here to help you in that way.
Do they get in trouble for that?
Only if it's called a 21, and it's a Rule 21, and
Do they get a Rule 21 chip for that?
I have to. You know what, Mike?
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I have to see it. And a lot of them do it under their clothes. So therefore, there's like a way around it. But still, contain yourself.
They do what
damn
under
it.
their clothes?
Masturbate.
Oh, that's what we're talking about. I thought they were.
Oh, okay, Mike.
I thought they were like illegally cooking ramen noodles in their
Sure,
cell.
Mike. Sure.
Yeah, I don't know that. Yeah, and what do you do? I mean, like, I don't know. I couldn't. Yeah, I would.
Because I'm not. And normally, I'm like, dude, that's incredibly inappropriate.
Well, they're in there for living their whole life incredibly inappropriate, so I don't think that bothers.
I would have to say.
Well, and these guys are serving life, so they don't
what do they care?
Some of them don't really care. And some of them are actually incredibly respectful, but there's still some that are not. And that's just human.
Yeah.
Humans, period. And so, it just is what it is. And, I have security with me. When this happens, I don't walk down the tier by myself, and I'm always, announced. And so it's just part of the deal. And I mean, like, it just doesn't, it doesn't faze me. I know that it's just
kind of like a house mom, and you just gotta just do.
I'm there to do a job, and I'll do it. And I have to move on. This job is not for most people.
Yeah.
And I would say about 95% of people cannot do it. Yeah. It is a very hard job, and you're disrespected at times, and that's okay because I can't control that. I had a whole class today that was pretty much disrespectful to me and was not willing to take in the information I was trying to share with them. So it was frustrating. But again, I can't make them want to open up and learn something about themselves. And, because they were getting frustrated about things going on over there. And I was just saying, we're not on the problem. We're going to focus on the solution. And they didn't want to, and so it just is what it is. And it's just like sponsorship. I can give you information. I can take you through the steps, but I can't make you.
Do.
Exactly. And so, that in itself, and, they feel like everybody's against them and working against them. And I'm really actually trying to help. And I really actually do care. And there are just things out of my control. They want me to ship them. I'm like, I don't ship people. I'm just a counselor, and so.
Now, when you say ship, what's that mean?
Like to another facility.
Oh, I got you.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, I mean, like I said,
I'd be trying to ship anybody had their junk out every time I came down the hall or whatever.
And I've had that happen at other facilities.
I'd FedEx his ass.
Well, this is like the number one disciplinary camp in Louisiana. So, there's
they're pretty much there. They can't send them nowhere worse.
Well, I mean, like there's Angola.
That's where they send their disciplinary.
So when Angola has a problem, they send them to you?
Yeah.
Damn.
Thus the
and so, but it's
I don't even know what you call it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, and so that's
I got you.
That's just how it works.
But too, it's like those kinds of fields, like police. And I watched something the other night about a detective that was dealt with child crimes and stuff like that. Horrible crap, and you hear a lot of that, I'm sure. And he said the advice he got from an old detective when he started was never drink after a bad day. He said you need to wait one day or you'll be a drunk. Like if
for real.
And he said I made that a point to where, and I mean this wasn't about sobriety. This is just a documentary.
This isn't a coping skill. Don't make it one.
Yeah, like don't make that your go-to.
Yeah.
And he said that was the only good advice he ever got dealing with all that stuff was.
Well, the thing is, I don't get frustrated often. It's exhausting because I do have like an hour drive home, and so I'm exhausted by the time this runs around.
A lot of Creed and stuff on the way home.
Never,
or Nickelback.
No, it just never happens.
Toad the Wet Sprocket.
Or Air Supply,
So
if you're Roger.
Hey, Air Supply, not bad.
I like them. I saw on a billboard that we have where I live. There's a casino about an hour and a half north called the WinStar, and like Blues Traveler, and oh man, not Toad the Wet Sprite. Little Miss Can't Be Wrong. Remember that song?
Oh yeah.
Oh, that's I think I saw them at Woodstock. When
Spin Doctors. And then there's one more. There was 3 of them, and they're all going to be at the WinStar. Blues Traveler.
I like the Blues Traveler.
Spin Doctors, and then the third one. It was another '90s group, and I just don't remember who it is.
Candlebox.
No, it wasn't.
Cranberries.
I think one of the Cranberries has since passed.
Yeah.
But I seen that, and I was like,
Jane's
man.
Addiction.
Oh no, but they were back together.
Perry Farrell's having issues. I think he had a meltdown on stage.
Dave Navarro and that lead singer guy. What's his name?
Perry Farrell.
Is it Perry?
The old guy?
It don't sound right.
Yeah, it's him. Believe me, I love.
Yeah.
I love.
Okay.
I used to love Perry, but he did some like bitch stuff just
he
recently
tried to
on
just
stage.
Fight dude on
He's the one.
stage.
Now he's the one that started Lollapalooza.
Who?
Right.
Perry?
Yeah,
I have
Isn't
no
he?
idea.
Not the lead singer of Jane's Addiction.
Yeah, Perry.
I gotta look that up. Something's not touching. But anyway, well, so besides training for the South American cockfight, what else have you been up to?
Wienergate.
Well, so it's
Matt's been training his whole
It's
life.
springtime, so I got out and mowed for the first time, and I just really love to mow. I really do, and the pigs and it's springtime. I need to plant a garden, and I've been working on building my beehives. Did you see them?
Saw them in the kitchen. Yeah.
Yes. You see,
And
you're
what do you
going
think? What do you
for it.
think? Yeah, I'm going
I had
for
friends
it.
in Mississippi that did that, man. It was kind of cool,
I'm stoked. I'm ready to have bees, and you have to put out this nuke, which is like how you get a queen. In her hive, you have to lure them with lemongrass oil.
Women.
Shake your tail feather.
It's the smaller, like hive-looking thing, and it's called a nuke, and it's supposed to be 6 feet up in the air. And for some reason, when they smell this, they just like are there.
Huh.
And I was like, they just come.
You should next time Ben comes over, rub some on the back of his neck.
It's horrible.
Slam.
This is a
neck.
side
Now a whole
note.
bunch of bees come to mate right there on his neck.
Well, it's not necessarily to mate, but
Great,
we'll see how this goes.
Great
If it ain't
joke.
about eating or mating, I can't imagine what would attract an animal.
Maybe it's some kind of, I don't know, pheromone.
You know that Tink's deer spray?
Mating.
It the deer urine that's in a spray that the deer hunters use.
No.
I used to keep that crap at work, and guys would walk by, and I'd mist it on the back of their neck, but they didn't know they walk around all day just smelling like hot garbage.
People used to come in the store and deliberately bust bottles of deer piss all over the floor.
Why?
I never did that. I
don't know.
kinda-
I mean, the piss problem, the smell didn't bother me, but getting the deer out is a bitch.
Mike.
I mean, they're just everywhere.
Do they steal stuff too? Probably while they're in there.
Well, we're not going to stop them.
Well, you got corn in there too. So
Well, we don't. Right there in the middle of Fort Worth, we don't have a lot
y'all
of
sell deer
hunters.
corn at Walmart?
No, and we don't say that.
Not in
In a rural
urban.
areas, yes. But
Gotcha,
in the middle of
gotcha.
Fort Worth, we
Not a
do
big
not sell,
item.
No. If we sell. No, not deer corn. We have a very small anything. One thing that did really surprise me was the middle of New Orleans, though. I was on the west bank of New Orleans. We sold a lot of kayaks. Just a lot of kayaks. And I'm guessing, now this is middle of New Orleans, inner city.
But it's still
not Mandeville,
water.
Madisonville. You are right there on the edge of
Yeah, I know a
Mississippi
lot
River
of people
and-
that down south that they go kayaking like in the
Canals.
bogs,
Yeah.
in the bayous of and alligators like right beside them.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
Wow.
I just don't know how I feel about that.
But right there in the middle of the city, I mean, really all there is those sewage drainage ditches. They're not either one, but it's in case of a flood, they kind of take the water out. And but besides that, you're 20, 30 minutes away from water.
Well,
but anyway.
and a lot of people have kayaks to travel with. they take them to places like the Buffalo River or in Oklahoma, Beaver's Bend, because that's the best kayaking we have around here. Because I love to kayak.
Well, isn't there the White River somewhere up there? White River runs right there too.
You can, yeah. It's but more Buffalo's a little more scenic. It's a little more popular.
Yeah, there's
The
stuff
Spring
all
River, I've been down it in Hardy.
in Hardy,
Yeah.
Arkansas.
All the way up on the line up there. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Been down the Spring River.
Yeah, there's a few places to go in Arkansas, but I really like the one in Oklahoma because there's a waterfall. And
Beaver's Bend?
Yeah, I've been down it when it was just like a half a foot, but I've also been down it when it was 6 feet. Mm-hmm. So it just depends on various water levels and everything, how rough it's going to be.
Yeah. You're right. Perry Farrell started Lollapalooza, so I don't know where I got that. I watched the documentary on it on Netflix, and boom, there you are. And
yeah, I used to be crazy about him in the 90s.
Yeah, people change.
A
little bit.
Well, and not that I ever knew him to begin with, but I liked his music. I was really big into Jane's Addiction.
I mean, have y'all seen like some of the this is what Elvis would look like today if he was still alive, or of course I think he'd be over 100 if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, all those like morphing pictures they're doing now.
Well, AI does them.
Yeah.
Michael Jackson, this is how he would look if he was still alive.
Yeah.
Which he's only been dead about 15 years. And
I have no idea.
Or two.
I mean, it still feels like it was 1980, 20 years ago.
That was 1970 something. That's a good song, by the way. I like that song.
1970 something.
Yeah.
Huh? Is that a song?
Yeah.
It's a country song, isn't it?
Yeah, man. You never heard 1970 something?
I don't think
Star
so.
Wars at least 8 times.
I'll tell you, good music.
Had the
There's a
Pac-Man
guy.
pattern memorized. You could actually turn it into a really good rap.
There's a guy right now out called Steven Wilson Jr. and he's kind of like an alt country guy. And he wrote one called 1994, and it's about the same type song. It's really good.
And then what's his name? His name completely escapes me, but I really like him. But he had one called 1993 something.
Joe Diffie?
No, that was
The summer of '69.
That was Peterson. No,
That's
was
Bryan Adams.
Bryan Adams. And man, what's the name of this guy?
Or '65.
Jason Aldean. 1994.
No,
1990.
it wasn't Jason Aldean.
He had one that he wrote like that.
What was that guy's name? Anyway, it'll come to me. I really like his music.
Is this a country artist?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm out. I don't know.
Well, you need to. I tell you what, man. Whenever someone crosses a genre, right, and they go, Sam Hunt is who I'm thinking of.
Oh yeah.
And
I may have heard of him.
And his man, I'm trying to think of his the song he sang. It's 19 something. These are the ages when we grew up. We could actually picture it in our head. Know. But there's dads out there that didn't grow up without an internet. You know what I mean? They have to tell their kids how horrible the internet was when they were kids. And
that's where that 1994 song came out. It was like that was the time I was a teenager. And so all that stuff was like he's got to be the same exact age as me because that's what it was talking about. Like
way back then.
Yeah, way
how
back
far
then.
we've come
yeah.
since.
It's been a
Son, I used to have to dial up internet.
Right.
Or
been
whatever.
a long time. But
I did have an epiphany the other day, and I was thinking. I was driving in my car. I mean, it was 30 years ago. It's been
30 years.
29. That 30 years ago when I first started going into treatment. And this was, my rave girl. Well, a couple of years before then was my rave girl era.
When was your rave girl era, Mike? Never.
I never got into rave girls.
I was a huge raver back in like 90.
I've been to a few. My younger brother drug me to a few. He was more into the designer
drugs.
Narcotics.
I couldn't imagine what a rave would even be. I just, is that kind of like a
unreal
orgy?
We would go to Dallas a lot because that's where the big ones were, and you just kind of hung around till 1 o'clock in the morning until someone sent you a text. or no, it was a beep. You got a beeper. It was a beeper then, and you got a location, and then everybody would drive to it, and it'd be like this 3-story warehouse with like big sheets just hanging from the walls, and all kinds of lights everywhere, and just dancing and
raving
just
it out.
music.
Yeah.
It was
It's
wild.
like a mosh pit with.
It's just everything. There's people having sex, someone dying over there. I mean, people just like making out. I mean, it's wild.
Sounds amazing. I can't believe
I
I missed
really-
it. I was too
missed
busy.
that whole era, Mike.
Too busy working for a living.
I was too busy just mooching.
And by the way, I saw real quick. I am going out of town this weekend, going to a celebration of life for somebody that was one of us, and good man. But I was thinking about talking about time going by. I was thinking about today. The last time I saw him, was probably 20 years ago.
Yeah.
It was at Jamie Johnson and Merle Haggard concert on the steps of the Superdome in New Orleans in Champion Square.
Has Jamie Johnson been around that long? Is this the
He's
same
been
guy
around
that
a while,
sang in
man.
color?
Yeah,
Should have seen him in color.
Yeah,
Man, I didn't
Yeah.
realize he'd been around that long.
man, he's been around a while.
So when Chris Stapleton first hit the scene and came out, I thought that was just Jamie Johnson, just kind of in drag. Or something,
Jamie's been around since. I mean, yeah, it's probably been because
don't know how
05,
we-
06. I
I don't
remember.
know how we got off on country music, to be honest.
I have
with
no
you.
idea.
But anyway, that was a great concert, by the way. And Merle Haggard died a few years after that, so it was kind of cool to do that bucket list
Yeah.
thing. Merle the legend. So
Yeah, absolutely.
and Jamie was great too. So
Before we get too far, we got an announcement.
Oh, okay. What we got?
Joe B celebrated 37 years.
Oh,
37
wow.
years.
Congratulations, Joe. That's you're
My
amazing.
sponsor and your sponsor, my sponsor, which is Joe B. And Joe B
okay.
is my sponsor.
Yes,
And
yes.
he got 37 years yesterday.
That's
well,
great.
then I didn't know that, and I called you, and I'm like, "Hey, Mike, did you know Joe got 37 years?"
Did you really?
And as well, there's a group text with like 27 men in it.
I don't ever
And-
look who's on there though.
I don't either. I mean, half the numbers on there I don't recognize. And
Yeah.
So,
Oh, because I get one too, but I don't think it's that one.
but it was saying Joe, and what is it like the Reader's Digest thought for the day?
We sometimes get some weird, random thought for the days, and I'm like, "This is about."
I can't
Publishers
figure out what
Clearinghouse.
book it's coming out.
Yeah, I
of,
don't know
you
what this is.
Yeah,
you
I'll-
know, it's like diabetes.
dude, I don't know who sent this. I don't know who sent this, but it's a receipt from Hardy.
And then everybody's like,
Yeah,
thumbs up.
Good stuff.
Good stuff,
Some
man.
good stuff there.
Praise
man.
God,
Yeah.
you know.
Triple cheeseburger with
They're like, who
extra
got
large
their
curly
oil
fries.
changed?
But you know what? I know we're not the only ones in recovery that get these like chain texts with like
Oh, yeah.
5,000 people
Oh.
attached with a reading and everything.
And wasn't COVID a booger when it came to that?
Oh,
Because,
man.
I was getting texts from people thinking I was some other Mike. Seriously, and then people would break out of that and be like, "Oh, hey, Mike, I got." And after a while, they realize they don't have a clue
I
who
love
I am.
Cal. Cal, if you ever get on with him and he doesn't want to be on it, he will immediately in all caps say, "This is Cal. Remove me from this thing."
Yeah.
And I see that happen a lot, and then people get butthurt, and then it's just,
Cal don't care,
God.
but he's gonna keep his sanity. You know.
So, talking about Joe B and talking about some of the stuff me and you have talked about today, Matt, on my ride over here, and one of my favorite sayings that Joe B has, okay, well, I can tell you two, okay? The first one, the number one favorite, I probably should put it on a sign and hang it in my office at work or hang it somewhere. But it says, the way you feel right now is not the way you're going to feel forever.
Exactly.
One of my favorite all time. But the second is, and I hope I don't get this wrong, but the second is the most useless commodity in the world is unsolicited advice. Let that sink in. The most useless commodity in the world is unsolicited advice. You got it? And I had to learn that the hard way.
I mean, I get it, but what if it's something that okay, it's something they need to hear, and that Does that make sense?
You meaning when I think somebody needs to hear something, it usually is my children, and they're underage, not adults yet. Because I don't give my older ones when they turn adult. Hey, unless you ask me,
Yep.
you do you, boo. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're an adult. You get to, and they get the freedom to make mistakes, and that's how they learn. Now, have I done it? Absolutely, but
Because I felt like even today in my class, trying to teach a coping skill to them unsolicited, but they didn't want that.
But that's a different deal because that's your job.
That's your job. That's like, that'd be like saying you didn't want your algebra teacher to teach you algebra because you didn't ask her to teach you algebra.
Yeah, and I mean,
But you see what? But there's been times in my life when I've had to talk to someone and tell them a truth they didn't want to hear, and it may have brought them.
But that's a truth, not necessarily. We're gonna let how we pick this subject is kind of interesting.
Okay, I'll settle down.
But
No,
Matt brought up a instance, and he's going to tell us in just a second. But I've had times where someone would call me, and my dumb ass would give them advice.
Okay.
Okay. Now I'm thinking I'm doing the right thing because the advice is based on my personal experience.
Okay.
Right. And so this is what you should do. And we always just offer suggestions to begin with, right?
Right.
But you need to do this. And I end up losing a friend for a while because, well, they do it and it doesn't
work out the way.
Doesn't work out the way, I had a guy one time. Now, this has nothing to do with any kind of program recovery, but he was having a problem at home, and this has been 25, 30 years ago, okay? And maybe 25 years ago, but he was having a problem at home. He had been married about 6-8 months, and they were having these issues and whatever. And I'm 25, 30 years ago, I'm a kid as well. So I go, here's what you need to do, man. You need to go back here in the back, and you need to load up your car with boxes, and you take them home, and you put them in your garage, and you say, hey, look, here's the deal. This is how it's going to be, or you can put your stuff in those boxes and you can hit the road, right? And so I'm not saying what I did was right. I was a long time ago, but
Yeah.
So he comes back the next day and he's like, hey, man, I'm telling you right now, it made all the difference in the world. And I was thinking, well, see, I told you, look how right I am. Right?
Right.
And then so that was the next day. And he was telling me how he had that conversation and she understood and blah, 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 man. The next morning, about 5 o'clock in the morning, he called me and he's like, man, I got to leave. I hadn't got to work yet. He's like, he worked overnight. He's like, I got to go, man. I got to get out of here. I'll lock the door up. And I was like, what's going on, dude? And he's like, my neighbor just called. My wife's loading up boxes and animal stuff.
Backfired.
And what didn't backfire on me?
Right.
Well, yeah, but
Mr. Advice guy over there.
yeah, dear Abby here.
Mike's like, I'm sorry to hear that.
What I should have did was stayed the hell out of it. It's none of my business.
Yeah.
Right. I
Yeah.
had to interject, and I felt guilty. I did for like it had to be 25, 30 seconds. I felt guilty about this, but you got to look at it. That happened in 1996, so almost 30 years ago, 29 years ago, and I still remember it right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of stuff that happened in 96 I don't remember, right? Mm-hmm. So obviously I made a mistake and I shouldn't have gave that advice. When it comes to the program of Alcoholics Anonymous, John Jay has always said, we don't offer advice, we just share our experience.
Yeah.
Now, how far does that go? Someone calls me and says, I'm thinking about drinking, right? Is it advice to say, I probably shouldn't do that? I advise you not to do that. Or is it advice to say, hey, look, dude, you don't have to drink, or not advice, I'm sorry. You don't have to drink. I've had these urges before myself, and I've succumbed to them, and I was back out there for another 6 months and went to a whole lot worse places. Why don't you stay on the phone and talk to me?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So, is there a fine line? Sometimes, if we make it one.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as where the story came from, is Matt had Matt, you just I'll
Yeah,
let you tell it.
I'll just to tag in what you're saying. So Bobby's my sponsor. He's been on here before. I've gotten in a vehicle with him or wherever we meet up. We're going fishing or whatever, and I got something bugging me, and I'm ripping and romping, and I just word vomit whatever it is going on. Well, I'm this, I'm that. This isn't working. Whatever it might be. And this is how he does that, and this is where I've learned from that. He'll drive down the road, and I get through with this 10-minute, story that I've unloaded, and he'll look over at me and go, "Are you asking me a question?" And I go, "Yeah, I guess I am." And he'll go, "What are you asking me?" And I'll say, "Well, how would you handle that?" Then he'll answer. Otherwise, he'll just drive down the road and not say a word. I can talk all day long. Doesn't bother him a bit. So I do think in the sponsee realm, there's times where, I mean, I've done it. I've asked mine for multiple things. Hey, man, and he's been down the road on a lot of that stuff. So I respect what he has to say. Doesn't mean I always do it, but I'm going to bounce big stuff off him for sure. So I don't mind the unsolicited when I can look at it and say, this person knows what they're talking about. They've been down that road. I welcome that information. Mm-hmm. And usually those are the people that are not out there offering it. You have to go ask them, hey, how do you handle this? And then they'll tell you, and those type people are great. But the reason this came up, had a sponsee move in a place very early in sobriety. Just so happened another guy I know going through a situation, needed an apartment. He moves in the same apartment building. And they don't know each other, but I know both of them, and they're both texting me. And I went, hey, this is a great idea. They can kind of buddy up and
Give each other advice.
And I was like, no, and I never. That was not the deal. But I said, hey, so I texted my guy, and I was like, hey, there's a guy moved in. He's one of us. You probably know him once you see him. Maybe say hi to him. Just give you somebody to talk to or whatever, because they're both kind of in the same boat. 2 or 3 days go by, and there was nothing about advice. There was nothing about any of that. It never occurred to me. So I get a text last night. Hey, man, I'm going to stop giving advice. And I'm like, who are you giving advice to? And he goes, that guy that moved in. I pissed him off last night, and he acted a fool. And I went, oh. I was like, yeah, you don't need to do the advice thing. And he said, yeah, I kind of figured that out. And I said, he said, what do I do though? I care that the guy's in the boat I'm in. And I said, you listen. And I said, you can be there for him to vent to. You can do all that stuff and just sit quietly. Giving advice. And maybe I should have said that up front and told him, hey, don't try to go in there, because they're both in the same boat. I mean, but that didn't end real well. And I told him, I said, look, and I asked him, I said, have I ever given you advice? Have I ever sat down and said, do this? And he goes, no. And I said, if you ask me something about how I would handle it, I will tell you. But I don't ever give you advice. My sponsor doesn't give me advice. It's not a free. I go ask him a question, and he answers the question as best he can. He gave me some real good information last Saturday, as a matter of fact. And anytime he says, I want you to listen to me, I know there's something big coming. But that all being said, I just think I think we get in that line because we are sharing with people and being in a AA and being around people, the meeting after the meeting, and people are venting about things. And there's that line you can cross where, me personally, I don't mind it. And I've learned to just, if it's advice from someone who I don't consider someone that should be giving advice, and that's putting it nicely, that's as nice as a way as I can say it, I just let it roll off my back. Yeah. And I just go on. I don't get upset about it. I just go, yep, nope, check, I'm out. But I know a lot of people don't. And I don't know. And like pointing out others' character defects is not a real good thing to do. No. We have sponsors. So us going, you really ought to work on, that's not ever going to win friends and influence people. You know what I'm saying? So.
The old Dale Carnegie phrase.
I could see you know, how quickly and easily that can happen, the unsolicited advice, because there's a lot of, you know, people are working on ego, and people are also, you know, at a point they're on fire, and they're wanting to share and help as many people as they can, but they don't know boundaries yet.
Right.
And, you know, I think those lines probably do get blurred quite
I
a
think
bit.
it is, and I think it is ego, and I think it's like sometimes people come in and they go, I have 9 months of sobriety, and someone rolls through the door and they're 30 days out and they're like, come sit by me, I'll explain all this to you. You know,
Yeah.
it's like, no, man,
Yeah.
just stay in your own boat, stay in your own lane, encourage them to get a sponsor. And I think in that aspect, there is advice that can be given. Your sponsor, Joe B, I have asked him things before.
Now-
Specifically went to him and said, what would you do here?
You ask them, and that's once you ask, it's not
It's solicited.
unsolicited,
Right.
right?
And that's the thing. I like to ask. I can't stand when someone, especially if I used to, I've had coworkers that have done this, and I'm not talking about personal advice, just random stuff. And I'm like, I didn't ask for your help. Like I know, or whatever it is. I find myself to be independent. And so therefore, when people try to think for me or do for me or suggest things to me, I can be, you know, get a little no thanks.
I had a guy that we're all close friends with, was early in recovery, sobriety, and his sponsor was not around. And he pinned me up one day at the club and said, I really need to talk to you. We went in the kitchen and shut the door. I said, no problem, man. And he laid something out and he goes, what would you do? And I said, dude, I don't even like saying something in this deal because I think you need to talk to your sponsor. And he goes, we're going to sit down tomorrow, but what would you do? And I said, this is what I would do. First, I would go ask your sponsor. But if it was me and I had been in that situation, I told him what I would do. He called me the next day and he goes, my sponsor word for word said the same thing you told me. And I was like, okay, but you did talk to him. That's, you know, if you're going to drink over it, if you just hold a gun to my head, yeah, I'll say whatever I think will help you, get you out of that deal. But even that kind of stuff.
Have you talked to your sponsor about this?
Yeah, I mean, that's my go. I mean, that's the whole name of the game with us. It's like I don't need to go tell other people how to do their program, how far along in their program they are. Years a lot of times can fool you because you go, well, this guy's got 10 years, but you don't know his his background versus I've seen people that were a year in and man, they were just solid, hammered, great program. So it's kind of knowing who you're talking to and who you're dealing with. And I don't judge people either on the way their program is. It just, it's kind of like a car mechanic. I don't want to talk to a sweet potato farmer about getting my car fixed.
Right. And this is something that I dealt with in early recovery, and it had to do with spiritual matters. And I found this to be very off-putting because I didn't have a higher power and I was starting from scratch with something I just wasn't quite sure what it was. And a lot of people were telling me it needs to be this. It needs to be this. And I'm like, I don't believe like that. And I remember getting very frustrated. And, people bringing me certain literature that I just not necessarily the road I wanted to go down spiritually. And so I feel like I got a lot of unsolicited religious, spiritual advice that frustrated me.
It's not necessarily going to be our higher power if
other people
kind of prodded in one direction or another.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, because that's a huge struggle that I had to go through to figure out on my own. And, going through the steps, I was able to figure that out. But
that's the beauty of the program when you figure it out for you.
Exactly. And I think that's what the point, what it should be instead of, oh, you seem to be lost. Well, can I talk to you about my higher power and how it works for me?
Yeah.
And I'm like, no.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, ain't none of us Billy Graham in there. You feel me? Like, I don't need to give it. Well, I know. But, I have certain things I believe, and I approach this with my sponsor too. We don't get into theology, okay? Like we don't get into doctrine and all those things.
The study of Theo Von.
Yeah, that's what well, I do. I study him because I like to watch him.
Theology. Theology.
But we don't get into that kind of stuff, and I don't do that with. Now I know what he believes. He knows what I believe, but that's not really a thing that we get into because that's not the avenue that we're in and we're going down.
Yeah, that's great. It just not everybody does that,
right? And that's what I'm getting to. I have no, it's fine. I have sponsees that don't know. They're looking at me like crickets, I like we all did. And I go, let me explain this right off the bat. That's one of the first things I talk to them about. And I go, this is going to require you to believe in something bigger than you. What I believe or don't believe has nothing to do with what you're doing in here. And I preface it up front. I'm not Billy Graham. I'm not here to sell you on religion or
Jimmy Swaggart, maybe.
Then I probably got a little Jimmy in me. I'm gonna keep it real.
Oral Roberts.
I don't know that much about him other than his name, but that's bad enough.
His name was Oral.
Yeah.
I wonder if he caught some hell growing up.
I'm sure he did.
There's a joke there, but I'm gonna leave that dog laying right where it's at.
I think he has a college in Oklahoma.
Oral Roberts,
and I think my cousin went there.
ORU. I don't know. Where'd you go, Oral? I went to Oral University.
What a college!
Well, you got a master's, didn't you?
Institute of Higher Learning.
You got a master's. Your sister got a bachelor's. I can tell.
But I mean, that's the cool thing though, Jill. And I think that's when people kind of get it is they figure that out and they go because that's what it did for me. I grew up in church my whole life, and they went, "Here's God. He's in a box. These are the things that you don't do." And it was a bunch of things that you don't do.
Yeah.
And I didn't like all that. So looking back on it, and then I get into Alcoholics Anonymous and I get to figure that out for myself, and being desperate enough from drinking and using to go, I'm willing to do whatever it takes to stop. And that's why it is the way it is today. And I think everybody should have that and be allowed. That's just a cornerstone.
Absolutely. Well, and not to mention, I see it a lot. And I don't know, I don't watch the men as much as I watch the women. If someone's struggling in a meeting and everybody just flocks to them afterwards, and everybody's like, do this, and I'm like, and I've heard things come out of people's mouth, and I'm like, you are not a professional.
Yeah.
And you should not be saying that.
Yeah.
Because sometimes it has to do with medications.
Yes.
And stuff that is out of their scope. And I've literally had to step in with something and say, no, that you do not give advice on stuff you don't know about.
Do you know Jimmy Swaggart is 90 years old?
Yeah.
Is he even alive?
He is still alive. And Oral Roberts' name really is Oral. It's spelled Oral. Like, that's not short for...
This joke is right here, and I just want to say it, and I'm not going to say it.
He died in December 15th, 2009.
Yeah.
But, I mean, he was like 91 years old.
Okay, well... Going back to,
I can't with this joke. It's in my head and it's bad.
But you see, have you ever seen that? Like, someone's like, "Oh, well, take Suboxone," or I'm like, "Oh my god."
Well, so here goes one. I remember I was in a meeting. It was a noon meeting on a Saturday, and they were talking about how like the guys back in the early days would carry around liquor in their car. Right, so that if someone had the jitters, they had the liquor to give them.
Yeah,
and somehow the topic was, would you carry around liquor in your car? I was 5 years sober. There was another lady there that was 4 years sober, somewhere in that neighborhood, and basically it got to me, and I was like, well, the big book says to, and I've had to give people liquor before,
and I have too, because first of all,
I've had the seizures.
Well, yeah, it is fatal. I mean, like withdrawals can be fatal with alcohol and benzos and barbiturates, and that's the only reason why I did that, because I don't want someone dying on my hands while I'm trying to get them to treatment.
Yeah,
I and you worked, Jill, in treatment a bunch, so you've probably dealt with this too. But when I was in one working, had the medication issue come up. Everybody's a damn expert. I went and got the big book. Don't even know what page it is now in front of me. Ran a copy off. They were giving the nurses a bunch of problems about medication, things they're supposed to do, blah, blah, blah. And they're up there having these philosophical discussions about what medication and all this bull crap going on. And they're 3 days sober, you know. And so I ran it off in the big book, and it says, and I'm paraphrasing, but we don't refuse doctors, good doctors, or religion.
Clergy.
Yeah. And they help us. And it's
Absolutely.
a 3-way deal. And I ran that paper off and I highlighted that sentence. And I said, when they come back up here and they're in that AA meeting and they're deciding they're going to throw all their medication out the deal, show them that. And she goes, oh my God, I didn't know. I was like, yeah. Like, do the things that are there to help you, whatever that takes, you know, and
I think a lot of people say, oh, well, that didn't work for me, and so it therefore doesn't work for anybody else. And I just think like that can be incredibly harmful for someone when you're speaking on your experience, but you are not a clinician.
Well, I'm going to tell you just from experience, and I know, Matt, I know your view on this, but I never took pills, never did drugs, I never smoked pot in my entire life, never even really been around it.
Yeah, I smoked enough for you.
Thank you. But I never been around it. So drinking was my gig, right? That's all I know. And several years later, I was probably 9 years sober. I have to have a root canal. And they were like, would you like some narcotics or whatever, you know, for the pain? And I was like, oh, no, I'm an alcoholic. I can't have none. Man, I'd give anything in the world to have had. I almost had a wreck going home. I was in so much pain. But because I refused to take the medication that they gave me or were offering me because I'm a, you know. And I think the next time that happened, because it happened twice, the next time I just said, hey, you know, if I'm worried about it that much, have my sponsor keep the pills, give them to me one at a time or something.
Well,
you know?
I mean, of course, I had a hysterectomy in recovery, and so, you know,
I hadn't done that yet.
I certainly hope you don't ever. Wow. But yeah, I mean, like with her guidance and, you know, and I talked about that stuff. I mean, I didn't think that having an organ and tumors removed from me, you know, would be
intent.
What
is
walk.
The intent?
Well, yeah. And are you feeling good about it?
Yeah.
I wasn't feeling. It didn't make me feel good at all. But you know, I used response. I took it less than what it was prescribed, and my sponsor knew, my parents knew, but. People can be like, no.
So I'll take that a step further, and this is something we're getting into in the new Alcoholics Anonymous, right? So as marijuana becomes legal and the byproducts of marijuana, they're using it to treat things, depression, things like that. So real life instance of that, and this was I actually got called a guy in tears, many years sober, and asked me advice. And I had a long talk with this guy, and I'll tell y'all what I told him. But he had been on antidepressants for years and years and years, and they kept going up and up and up, and his depression got worse. Couldn't get out of the bed, had a new baby, new wife, he's married. It's going to pot right off the bat because he can't figure this out. He keeps going to the doctors. They're giving him all kind of stuff. The doctor finally tells him, he says, look, man, you know, we're just going to keep upping the dose. And he said, it's not working. I can't even get out of the bed in the morning. And the doctor said, have you tried? And I'm going to butcher it. I don't know the medical crap, but it was marijuana, a vape pen that they do so many milligrams a day. So you can only.
Like a
probably
microdose?
Very small, I'm
very
sure.
Small, minor dose of it. And he told me, he said, I feel like a fraud because I threw all those pills away.
Yeah.
And he said, like, I don't even use them. And he said, it's very minor thing. He said, but I feel like a fraud because I'm in Alcoholics Anonymous and I'm basically using marijuana. And I told him, I said, man, number one, I don't know that you feel like a fraud. I said, the only thing I would be careful with is sponsoring someone and not being upfront about that. But I said, but the thing was, it's the same thing with the pills. His wife knew. His parents knew, the doctors knew, it was regulated, and it helped him.
Yeah.
And that was the trick to it. And I said, dude, you may want to be careful about how you sponsor people with that going on. But other than that, if you were doing heroin for many, many years, you have been clean for a lot of years. Whatever that takes for you to live your life and your kid and all that, and everybody around you knows what's going on, do your thing.
Yeah.
And that was just me.
Well, but you also got to, we're saying doctors and clinicians. However, there are a lot of doctors, clinicians that give you shit you shouldn't even be on.
And to carry that too, you have the microdosing and the things for trauma now that they're doing. And there's an area there where it's like, what's what? Bill and them did their stuff back in the day.
And the thing is, like, I know what, like, I'm just glad all substances were a problem for me, because I can't be like, oh, And the thing is, like, I just, I don't know. It's a really kind of touchy subject, and I just know for me it's something I can't do.
Yeah, and that's me too. I told him, I said, I wouldn't be able to do that because I know myself, but I don't know him, and I'm not his sponsor, and I'm not. And I said, dude, here at the end of the day, it's your life to live, and as long as you're not giving someone else, telling them to do something that you're not doing, I feel like that's the name of the game in this whole program. I tell my guys exactly what I do, what I was taught to do. They can follow it or not. That's what worked for me. And I said, that's the only area where if you were doing that, and he wasn't, he said, I don't have any sponsees. So,
yeah,
I
mean, and plus it's none of their business. I don't share my
but he was so upset, and he said, man, you don't understand. He said, I've been doing it for 2 months now. And he said, I literally threw those pills away. I don't take them. The side effects from it are gone. And he said, I sleep at night. I sleep like I'm supposed to. He goes, I haven't slept like this in way into my addiction, And I said, then good for you, man. I mean.
Have you noticed the amount of marijuana signs when you come into Shreveport from Texas? Like there's
all the dispensaries.
It's just this huge sign that has the word marijuana
I pulled in Good Day Farms down here the other day because I thought it was like a
I thought it was a produce stand.
And I was like, oh, this is weed. And I just drove out.
Maybe that's what
it's really nice looking. And I thought, oh, look at that beautiful produce stand.
They probably did something with that place. Yeah, they're selling weed out of it.
Where's it at?
Right down here by where Sue's Country Kitchen used to be.
I thought that was a taco.
It is right behind it is a weed place. So you got your taco and your weed right there together.
Oh.
Kind of goes in tandem.
I know. I mean, like.
I bet the people at Fuzzy's were excited to see that.
The business is booming.
Yeah.
That's good
right
people
next
over
door
there
to the
too.
Cheeto
by the way.
plant.
Yeah. But that's goes to that area of advice and this guy, I consider this guy a friend. We're about the same years and things. And like I told him, I said, the fact that you call me and you're so upset, that tells me where your head's at and your heart's at on it, is you're trying to do things the right way.
Yeah, exactly.
And I said, if you're running around hiding it and nobody knew you were doing it, that's a different deal.
And you're loving, I mean, like,
yeah.
Ooh,
But,
I don't know.
But Mike, to your point about the root canal, I had having to get all my teeth done. It's been a several year process. I'm in the middle of it now. I had 4 of them cut out.
Yeah.
Went back to work, and me and another guy set the intake world record at Uprising Addiction Center. 13 guys in one night, spitting blood, bro. Mouth swole up, didn't take nothing.
All 13 of you guys were spitting blood? Or?
No, I was the only one spitting blood.
Oh.
I couldn't even talk.
I was fixing to say.
So,
Matt, that
you didn't
sounds horrible.
pass out or anything.
It wasn't, you know what? It wasn't bad, and just toughed it out. But that's what I have to do. I can't. I just, I had somebody ask me. They said, "What would happen if you took a pill?" And I said, "I'm gonna tell you the only way I would take a narcotic pill, me personally, if I'm in a wreck and I'm knocked out and they shoot me up with something, I can't do nothing about that. I'll just deal with it when I wake up."
I tried, and this is the deal. I tried to be like, I'm not going to take it.
And you may have needed it.
Well, when I woke up in recovery, I was in so much pain. I was crying and screaming. And I was like doing this moaning, and I was like, it was the worst pain. And I was like, I can't.
But again, how you handled it and what you did. Hey, this is going on. This is what I got. People know, And that's the right way to handle things.
Yeah.
And we just have to do it.
Yeah,
that
it was
way,
very.
you know?
I took all the right moves, and so, but yeah, but I mean, like, it's not just people in AA. You know, or what I'm talking about is unsolicited advice.
That's a world problem.
Because we all have mothers and fathers that mean well, huh?
Yeah.
And other ex-wives
Oh, I got some of them. Mine
or
one.
wives or husbands. I mean, we all have someone in our life that and
Well,
we get to, and we're like, man.
Here's the deal. I don't have my shit together.
Agreed. I mean, like, I don't either.
So when I get my shit together, I'll worry about your shit.
Yeah.
But if I'm worried about your shit and my shit ain't together, I'm diverting from what I need to be working on with me.
For sure.
And I think it's also intent too of, are you working on your own shit and someone approaches you and says, "Hey man, I need help with this."
No,
That's different. But walking around with our nose in the air going, "Let me tell you about my higher power," because I can see that you're not very happy right now. That's not, nuh-uh.
I remember
Never going well.
Yeah, I know in early recovery, and I never had a problem with the higher power thing. That wasn't a big deal. But whenever someone would just sit and talk to me and listen to me whenever I talked, and a lot of times the smart ones didn't give any advice. There wasn't nothing that come out of there. Keep coming back might be valuable, unsolicited advice.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
Keep coming back.
But just working on it. That's a nice way of saying just keep working on it.
Because that's pretty much what they said. But at least someone was listening to me for once, Then, man, it's going to be okay. It's going to get better. Even if you don't believe them, there's something about taking that stuff out of your head and getting it out.
For sure.
Too, and I'll say this following up on Bobby giving me advice, and I use a lot of that, and I've learned a lot of that from him. Sometimes with things, the thing that I brought up this past weekend, it was early in the morning. We were working on the shop. I get there, and I had a thing going on, and I was talking to him about it at 8 o'clock in the morning. He didn't say anything. At 4 o'clock that afternoon, we're getting through, and he goes, "Hey, let me tell you this." And then he gave me this. So I know he takes the time to think about what's the root of this thing, and it's short, sweet, to the point. It's not a novel of you should take notes here. This is at the end of the day, this is what it is, and that's so helpful to me. And I respect people. I'm gonna look at them and go, "Hey, Mr. Joe's got 37 years. He's been married. He's been divorced. I'm having divorce issues. I'm going to go talk to Mr. Joe. He can probably give me some good advice." The times that I've asked him, he always has. It's always spot on. And you can go, there's probably 6 or 7 guys, Mike being one of them, men-wise. And Jill would, if I had a group of women that I valued, you're at the top of the list.
Well, I do have a group of women
as far
that
as
value.
that's a different podcast.
Different Matt. No, I'm saying I will go. I don't have a problem going to Miss Kathy, right? Or if there's if she's the only one there, I can go to Miss Kathy, and she's been sober 30-something years.
Yeah, and I just don't know the women like I do the
I
men.
I understand.
And
Joe,
so if I have an issue, I'll grab one of them, but they're always the advice is the same. I can ask Mike and go ask Joe. They don't know nothing about it. They're going to tell me the same thing.
Jerry down in Mandeville, and I love that guy. I probably need to reach out because I haven't talked to Jerry in years. But he never, I ask for advice. He never gives you advice, right? Mm-hmm. Kind of like what I would do. Or Joe, like you ask Joe for advice. Hey, Joe, this is, and he's going to sit here and he's going to pick your brain. He's going to ask you enough questions about that situation and never say a word. He has plausible deniability in that situation.
But he also has a way of making you think it out.
There you go.
By doing that.
And
I think that's a good sponsor right there.
And his experience has actually helped. And I lost my camera, y'all. I lost my camera.
Well, and it
I don't know what happened to my camera.
Oh my gosh, your background's still there, but you don't exist.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm going to talk.
But that's I think early in sobriety, just even later in sobriety, man, you just don't know what people are going through. you don't know what's happening behind the scenes that people are not talking about, and that kind of thing can just be my biggest fear in AA is that I do something like that type thing to cause somebody to go back out.
Yeah.
And then God forbid, stuff's killing people. I don't want somebody to go out the door and then, hey, you decided to tell him whatever, and now he's not coming back anymore.
Or
worse,
worse than that. And I think it's just, stay in our hula hoops.
Yep.
And
my camera's back, by the way.
That's great.
Thank
It
God.
just kind of disappeared right out of just.
Well, and that's what my sponsor would stay in your hula hoop. And, that's what I do.
Yeah. Not my circus, not my monkeys.
There you go.
Bobby E. All the time. I'm going to get him a T-shirt. He's got a birthday coming up. I want to get him a T-shirt.
7, 8 years?
So,
Like 8 years. I remember the day he walked in the door. I remember
Really?
Bobby came. Yeah, I remember his first meeting. He was in from a treatment center.
Yep.
I remember his very first meeting. I remember him.
Wow.
Like the day he got there. I remember him sharing what he said. I remember everything. So,
Yeah.
but that was pretty cool. And now to see he's got 8 years. I was sitting in my normal chair. That was back. I think I was living in. I think I was getting ready to move to New Orleans at that time. Maybe living in West Monroe, getting ready to move to New Orleans, and I remember Bobby's first day. That was pretty cool.
I like his approach even when I ask him to sponsor me. And of course, I've never had a sponsor. I don't, so it's that nervous. But even I remember asking him, it was like the second day I was in there because he was kind of close to me where we sat. And I went over and asked him, and he goes, you may not want me as a sponsor. And so he tells me his background, and I was like, no, you sound like a good guy for me.
You're exactly what I need.
Perfect. And but everything was non-committal. It's like, if you do the things you do, I'm going to do the things I do. And we're going to
Y'all still
temporary.
haven't committed to this.
Yeah, and I asked him the other day. I mean, he's been sponsoring me now for like my whole sobriety. And
He's like, you're still
I
here.
said, hey, am I still temporary? He goes, you've been temporary the whole time.
That's
So
what Jerry used to say about his sponsor. Like Jerry probably has 17, 18 years now, and his sponsor has been his temporary sponsor since. If he still has the same sponsor, I don't know if things have changed. Matt can probably find that out for me when he goes down to Mandeville on Saturday night.
Okay.
And some have you heard Post Malone's country album?
yeah.
I really like that.
It's not bad, man.
I whenever people cross genres, I generally lose interest.
Mm-hmm.
And recently, I put a trunk on my motorcycle,
Okay.
and it's got speakers on it, and so kind of going down the road and hooking my phone. I bought a Beats Pill. You ever seen one of those?
Yeah.
No.
It's a little
Yep.
speaker, and it hooks to the speakers. Anyway, but it came up on my phone, so I hit play, and man, it's some good stuff.
Yeah, Post, man, I tell you, I know people
Collaborates with some really good artists. on
people
it.
talk about country music now, and man, there's so much good younger folks that are doing it now and changing the way it sounds. And
Well, I was a big Al Dean fan from the day he came
Yeah,
out.
yeah.
I really like Jason Aldean. This whole meeting has had a country vibe.
Yeah,
to
it really has. And
Kinda
I feel
has.
like I don't have anything to say when y'all talk about country
from
music.
Sam Hunt to Post Malone.
And then we were talking about beforehand about, which is not really country music, but his father of blues and rock and roll, Robert Johnson. I watched that documentary. If y'all hadn't seen it, guys, on Netflix, go watch it.
yeah, if you didn't
Awesome.
know, before the devil went down to Georgia, he was in Mississippi.
Hazelhurst, Mississippi. Yep.
Hazelhurst, Mississippi, with Robert Johnson.
Yeah.
And I have not seen the documentary. I might, obviously I got to sleep tonight. I haven't slept in a few days, but that I need to watch that because
They did a great job and interviewed some of his family and things like that. And the guy had a rough life growing up. And you know what was crazy? They talk about the blues and they're always singing about a woman, right? It's, she did this, she did that. They said that they interviewed folks down there, and they said that they used to work in the fields for the farmers for like during the slavery days, and they would sing those songs like that, but they were talking about the farmer was doing whatever, and that was their slang so they could sing it while he was out there. They were actually talking about whoever
singing
was,
it right in front of him.
Yeah.
I got
So
you.
that was interesting. I was like, I've never thought of that, but it makes perfect sense. So,
Yeah, for sure.
But anyway, that was really good. I enjoyed
Yeah, I'm
that
definitely
last
gonna
night.
have to watch it.
And I saw Ray Wiley Hubbard got sober. If he can do it, anybody can, guys.
Who's
Ray
that?
Wiley, old school cat from Texas, country music guy.
I was about to say,
And,
is this a country guy?
He's I actually just random on YouTube. There pops up this video and it says recovery now, and it has Ray Wiley Hubbard, and I'm like, recover from what? And I clicked, and it was actually really good. So
All
I
right.
did watch the Mr. McMahon 8-part episode on what was that?
Oh, it's my top.
On her top just flew off. You can't tell because of the way the camera's positioned. We have really good camera angles here.
you know, there's a Division II school linked to that Oral Roberts too. If you don't make the grades at Oral Roberts, his brother had a school called,
Yeah.
called Anal Roberts.
Yeah.
Oh my God,
Yeah.
Matt.
I've been here the whole time, guys, and I just couldn't help. I don't care.
No,
you know,
no. I mean, it makes,
that's not a good school.
I'm going to guess it's in Mississippi.
Nah, I don't know where it is, but I don't want to go there. You know,
don't go anal, man.
yeah, don't, yeah,
No.
yeah. Try to go to the other one.
If you're trying to
you
get
gotta
a
go.
bachelor's in something, and master's in something, go to oral. But if you flunk out,
I couldn't help it, y'all. I'm
There's-
Y'all
sorry.
are.
I mean, the whole time.
there is a
killing
backup
me.
plan.
I don't know what's
A
wrong.
backup
With
plan.
Oh my God.
me. I don't know what's wrong with me though that I
Puns just
just
I mean,
can't.
and you were so red.
Yeah, because I
You've
just
been-
like I
you've been
can't-
holding it
I
in for
can't
so
pass
long.
This up, you know, I can't let this go. So I'm sorry to everybody
Can you
out there. I
imagine, like, if you
apologize.
had two brothers or two sisters or whatever, and one of them graduated from Oral Roberts and the other one graduated from Anal Roberts?
That's the stuff of porno movies right there. That's how they make them.
Is that how they make them?
I guess.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, we
Yeah.
do have some microphones and camera equipment here, so.
well,
No, that's not going down here. But nice
No,
try.
I'm saying he obviously watched some how to make them video. I don't know.
Well, I mean, it sounds like a
I don't-
title
I
or
can't
something.
imagine it being too hard to make.
Yeah.
I mean, oh man. Anyway, we had a good show. I liked it. I'm not gonna offer up any more unsolicited advice anymore. until I
Or
get my shit together.
university ideas. Y'all just do your best. Don't watch those scholarships to ARU.
We do appreciate our listeners, all of those that are listening, and those that bear with us through our horrible sense of humor and our losing cameras and the mistakes that we're going to have to learn how to get through over the course of time. We have, I want to make sure that I recognized we have listeners in, I want to make sure I didn't leave out the country. And I think I've named all these countries, but it was
Antarctica.
Ukraine.
Oh,
Antarctica.
We have listeners in
Do
Ukraine.
they have people in Antarctica?
can we just please have a listener in Antarctica?
Bro, he's cold. Whoever
Well,
it is,
I
he
mean,
or she.
And if we're looking at stats, we got 190 streams in the last 30 days. It's down a little bit. 176 followers. We hadn't lost any, but we hadn't gained any. We're averaging about 65, 70 listens a show on these platforms. YouTube's obviously always, has to be loaded on its separate. And I think me and my daughter looked at it the other day and it was 2,892, somewhere in there. We looked at it. My grandson had a seizure a few days ago, and we don't know what caused it or any of that. There wasn't any damage. He had an MRI a few days before that, and his brain looked good, and anything that had happened to it prior to then is good now. So not really sure what caused it, but he's still in ICU from the little cold he got. But I'm going to tell you, I went and saw him night before last. I spent a few hours up there, and man, he doesn't know he's sick.
They're so resilient.
He has no clue that, what's going on, but he's still a little kid. He was hyper the other night, jumping around, and I actually thought, if I don't leave, this kid's not going to go to sleep.
Yeah.
And he needs to go to sleep. He got a head full of hair. He has 6 teeth.
Dang, you got more than I do.
And don't know when he's coming home. We don't know if he will, because he's going to end up having to go to Philadelphia in May.
Yeah.
And they're going to see, get him a plan to get him all fixed up. So, but it's definitely been an experience. It's been an experience, and we all stand beside him and support him and his mom and his dad and his little sister, and I got to play ball with his little sister the other day in the parking lot of the Ronald McDonald House. That was
Good.
pretty cool. So Yeah, it's I don't know, man. It's something that
It's life, man.
it is. It's just life 101,
For
which
sure.
is I don't have to drink because of it. You know, I think in the way I believe, and of course I would never put my beliefs off on other people.
Mm-hmm.
But the way I believed is that, God probably knew all this was going to happen whenever I got sober. And it's
Mm-hmm.
just part of a plan. And of course, it's my will. If I want to go out and drink, I have
For
the
sure.
ability to. I can go do it.
Yep.
But he's taken that opportunity and said, hey, here's what we got. Here's some lemons. Now you make lemonade. Or here's some gators. Now you make Gatorade. Or whatever it is, that we make. But
And I find too, like, you deal with that situation as best you can, and you're doing that, and your family is, and all that. But then down the road, something similar happens with somebody else, and they're like, I don't know what to do. It's panic, and you go, I've been down this road.
Yeah.
I can be a shoulder or something for this other person, and that's
And I don't
kinda
have to
how
give you unsolicited advice.
yeah.
I
You
can
don't
just
have to
tell
give
what
advice.
happened
You
with me.
just can say, hey, I've been down that road. This is what happened, and Sponsor, he texted me yesterday. I said, hey, man, how was your day? And he said, horrible. It was a horrible day, but I didn't drink. And I said, then you won the day, brother.
Sound
And
like
I
a pretty
said,
good
guess
day.
what? Just the horrible days don't just stop all of a sudden. You're
Nope.
going to have them. So
Yep.
this is part of growth.
Yep.
So
All right. Well, guys, we're about to wrap up. I can't think of any more announcements to make, anything special that happened. Hopefully, maybe one day soon we'll be able to have Coleman on the show, and he'll be able to give us some unsolicited advice. So, but anyway, we have been at Rule 62 Studios. We've been right here in Bossier City, Louisiana, and we are always the Grouch in the Brainstorm.